Hey guys, it's Gabe again. This is going to probably be one of the last videos that I show you on how to connect uh, your SynthFlow agent to GoHighLevel, and it's probably one of the most important because we're going to discuss how you can actually get the outcome of the call and what was said uh, into the GoHighLevel system so that you can record it on your contacts, and therefore your sales team can actually see what's happening with the AI and the conversations. So I'm in Synthflow right now. You're going to click into your agent, and it's going to be under the deployment. And inside of deployment, you're going to have this webhook section here. And we're going to get this URL from GoHighLevel. So I'm going to go over to our GoHighLevel account, and inside my Synthflow Voice AI folder, I have one called Post Outcome Call Data, Post Call Outcome Data. And when I built this, at the top of it is called an inbound webhook trigger. And basically, this just means that when we added this trigger, GoHighLevel gives us a URL that we can use to share with another system, and then that system can send us data. So we're going to copy this trigger right here, and if you get this snapshot, you'll have the trigger here, but it's not going to be connected. So you'll want to connect this part. This is the most important part. Go back to your Synthflow account, paste that webhook here like that, and then you're going to click initialize. I'm not going to do that in this scenario because I want to keep the sample I have in there and show you what that looks like. So I don't want to reset that, but you click initialize. And then what happens is when you click initialize, this down here, this mapping reference right here is called a response. It's going to give you a sample response. The sample response's purpose is really just to get the two connected, but we have to take it one step further. So let me go back over here to Synthflow and let me explain this as clear as I can. On our prompt, we want to get data out of the call. Part of that data is what we set up with the actions. So we have a calendar booking, and then we have these different information extractors. We even have a call transfer. So the most common thing we're going to be looking for is the information extractors. We want the call summary. We want the email that gave us their name and what was the call outcome. And we want to send that to GoHighLevel so we would know what to do next, or do we need to recall this person? So when we go over here and we get the sample request that it sends us when we connect it, it's just going to be a dummy request so that it's connected. But what we need to do is we need to go back to our Synthflow account over here. We need to select this on right here. This says send webhook after test call is completed. And then we're going to put in our name. We need to select the phone number after we get our Twilio account connected, add our phone number, and then we're going to do an actual call talking with our agent. And we want to make sure that we get through all these things, meaning we want to actually get to the part of the script where it asks us for the email. We want to actually get to the part where it asks us for the name. The call summary and the call outcome are going to happen automatically. So just to get those work, you just have to have a 2-second call. But to get the other things to work, you actually have to go through the process until it asks you that so that it can log it. Whatever information extractors you have here, just make sure that you do a test call that triggers all of them, including call transfer and even call booking. Once that call is complete, it's going to send this webhook. And now it's going to be a real webhook that's not just a test one, and you're going to get real data. So here's an example of one that came through that I did, and we can see my information extractor, the call outcome. Here's the choices of the call outcome. You saw this in a previous video, so it's saying it's trying to figure out, okay, based on the transcript, what's the best choice. It determined this one was a not interested. If we go on down, we'll see another call extractor. This is the call summary, the return value. Return value is always what you're looking for. Return value, this is what it's given us. And then up here, return value, call outcome. Let's see here. I think this sample might have only had those two, the call outcome and the call summary. If we had this sample that connected the name and the email, we'd also see those, and we'd be looking under the return value to see what was the name and what was the email. Now, the reason the return value is important is because that is what we're going to map to the contact down here. And I'll show you that in just a second. So this looks like a lot of information. If you're not used to seeing stuff like this, just get a little bit familiar with it. You don't have to know coding. but it's pretty easy to scroll through here and kind of see what's going on if you take a second just to get familiar with it. It's going to help you set things up. So one thing I can't do if I share this snapshot with you is I can't connect your webhook, and I can't do the test call and map the fields correctly. So that's why I'm showing you how to do this and why it's important to get familiar with that. So the next thing that we're doing here is there's an if-else statement, and this is just a checker to make sure that the call was completed and it's not voicemail. So I want to show you real quick. This is coming from status. Let me just show you how I set this up. I selected the drop down. I went to the inbound webhook trigger. I went to status is, and then I had to type in completed. And the way I knew how to type in completed is because SynthFlow has some documentation, and feel free to copy this address up here. These are different API documentations, but the one underneath webhook actually shows you what a sample webhook response looks like. But if you keep scrolling, it tells you the different status codes. So this is what SynthFlow gives us, and we could actually do an if-else statement to determine what any of those states are. And same with in-call reason, we have an in-call status reason output as well. So if we go back to NerdTech, what we did was we said, okay, if the in-call reason does not contain voicemail, so that's right here, voicemail. So I had to put in that exact word. It has to be no caps, has to be exactly. Same here, exactly. If it doesn't contain voicemail and if the status is completed, then we go on to make the call. Or not to make the call, sorry. Then we go on to create the contact and to log the data. If it was anything other than a completed call and it did hit voicemail, it would just dead end right here. We don't want that information. We only want completed calls. So we have a completed call, we go down, we create update contact. Now this action here, create update contact, also means that if the contact exists, it will find that contact based off of the phone number and just update it. So don't get worried if you think you're going to overwrite your data, you're not. So it's going to create, update, or find an update. Now what we're doing here is we're taking the phone number and we're mapping it to the inbound webhook phone number that we got from up here. So we're saying, oh, okay, we have a phone call that came in or went out. We're going to find that contact. If we can't find it, we're going to create it. And then the rest of these fields, we're just mapping. So all of these fields you see on the left, these are custom fields I'd created inside of GoHighLevel. And the reason I created them was so that we could map the data from the webhook. So we mapped call duration to duration. We mapped the time to the time. We mapped the call recording to the call recording. And the summary, the outcome, call status, in call reason, if they give us an email, if they give us a best time to call them back. These are, I actually didn't have these fields mapped, but these are other extractors that I like to set up sometimes as well, so I include them. So now that we've found or created the contact, we're going to create a note. And the note is going to have the duration, the recording, the outcome, call summary, transcript, model ID, and the call ID. Now the note has a lot of the same information as when we mapped it to these custom fields over here. The reason why I duplicate a lot of this information is because I like to have it in its own field so that we can sort data, or maybe we want to export it and it's going to be in its own column in an Excel file. But the note is nice to have just for the benefit of when you click in the contact, it's real easy to just take a look at the note to see this at a glance. So it's mostly for convenience. But I do want you to notate that in this note that I create, we add in the model ID and the call ID. So if there is an error or a problem and you need to report it to me or SynthFlow support, they're always going to want to know what was your model ID and what was your call ID. They may also want to know your workspace ID or your account ID, but these two are the main ones, and that will allow us to troubleshoot much faster. If you just say, hey Gabe, something wrong happened, and you send me the recording, yes, I can hear that, but I can't troubleshoot it. I don't know where to find it. I don't know who the contact is. So for your convenience, I have mapped that in here. So all you have to do is tell me or SynthFlow the model ID and the call ID. That's the note. Then we have the add tag AI call answered. This is just so that we can find the contacts. I always try to do as much tagging as possible. So if I ever need to find the contacts, I can. So this will show us all the contacts that have answered an AI call. Then we do a math operation. We're tracking the call pickups. So obviously if they're coming through this automation, we know for sure they've answered the call. So in my other automation where we trigger the call to happen, we count that as a call attempt, whereas this is a call pickup, and it's just going to count that for us. A lot of times we use this in follow-ups. We might want to do something after a certain amount of call follow-ups. So we might change this to call follow-ups. We have another math operation here, and because the call duration actually natively comes in from SynthFlow as seconds, I created this custom field, called it minutes, and then we run it through the math operation to convert the seconds to minutes. It's just a convenience thing. If you had a long call and it said 3,200 minutes or seconds, nobody really understands what that means. So it's just nice to have it converted to minutes. So that's what I do there. And then at the end down here is, quite frankly, probably one of the most important areas. Basically, it looks complicated, but it's not. It's just a simple if-else statement that's saying, hey, if it's booked appointment, if it's follow-up, if it's a live transfer, and we're just checking that information extractor. So when we click into here and we go to the, where we find that is, just so you know, if we click the plus and we go to the inbound webhook, you're going to go to the executed actions right here, and you're going to go to the my extractor and then scroll down to the return value and then click right there. That's going to give you the call outcome. And then you do, I do contains on this, that way it doesn't have to be exact, but it does need to match pretty much exactly what you have in SynthFlow. So if you remember, we set that up. If we go to actions, let's go over here to actions, information extractor, call outcome. This is what it needs to match before the dash. So that's how we set it up. So we're saying if this matches this, I'm going to delete this because I already have it up here. If this matches this, if this matches this, and so on and so on. We're just saying if it matches any of these things, this is what I want it to do. This is what I want it to do. This is what I want it to do. So for all of them, I tag them so that way we can find those contacts fast. Then I put them in a pipeline stage to sort them so we can figure out what happened to those contacts. And then lastly, I remove them from the workflow that triggered the call. So in this case, they were in the AI call trigger 5 call attempts. Well, I don't, if it's called it 2 times and they've answered the call, I don't want it to call them tomorrow. So I'm going to yank them out, and in that workflow, it's going to go into booked appointment. My sales manager is going to be able to find that and do whatever needs to be done next. So that is how the last part happens, where we connect SynthFlow and GoHighLevel, the post-call outcome data, probably the most important part of the entire process, because at the end of the day, you want to make calls, but you have to know what happens on that call, and that's what this does. So I really hope that this has brought some value, and if you do get this snapshot from me and you need help with it, feel free to reach out. Or if you don't want anything to do with this, obviously we can build it out from scratch for you as well.